Jordan Grace saying she wants to come out here tonight in the dark, which she will do. Jordan Grace, Jordan Grace, I'm Jordan Grace, 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 Jordan Grace, Jordan Grace, I'm Jordan Grace. Ruby red, 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 and ruby red coming down to the ring with a sign saying Jordan Grace is dead after tonight. Ruby red, ruby red, ruby red, ruby red. Don't blame me for the charge. Don't blame it on me. Ding, ding, ding. The match scheduled for Windfall. And it is for the Raw Women's Championship. Her opponent from Mystic Falls, North Carolina, weighing in at a combined weight of 271 pounds, Ruby Red. And her opponent from Johnsonville, Wisconsin, weighing in at a combined weight of 253 pounds. She is the Raw Women's Champion, Jordan Grace. And here is Jordan Grace and Ruby Red walking up to one another. Referee trying to hold these two back. Will it become a change here tonight between Ruby Red and Jordan Grace after the rivalry history these two have had? And here we go. And that's what it's all about. The Raw Women's Championship. Final fight. Jordan Grace, Ruby Red. Ring the bell! Ding, ding, ding! And here we go. And here we are. Oh, and there we go. And Jordan Grace and Ruby Red Red. Here they go, throwing hits at one another. Jordan Grace and Ruby Red not even gonna do a raffle up. They're throwing licks at one another, left and right. And it's Grace and Ruby Red, and they're about to tear it down at Super Showdown. And Ruby Red, Ruby Red says she's been waiting for all week to get her hands on Grace, and she has the opportunity to do so tonight. And Ruby Red, Ruby Red flying over the top to take out Grace. And Ruby Red, face first is Grace. And again goes Grace. Grace being tossed into the ring by Ruby Red. And Grace stopping the momentum of Ruby Red. And Grace, with a clothesline to Ruby Red. And now Ruby Red gonna go into the ropes. And Grace, who launches herself off the rope. And a drop kick by the Raw Women's Champ. And Grace gonna prove nothing but greatness as always. And Grace, kick the Ruby Red. And a punch. And a kick. And wait a minute. Ruby Red. And now Ruby Red trying to continue this self-esteem that she's been holding in for weeks. And Ruby Red, and Ruby Red, and Grace now, and these two are gonna fight it out here tonight. And Grace now getting the upper hand of Ruby Red. Grace knows every move and trick of Ruby Red in her book. And Ruby Red, and Grace, a super kick to Ruby Red, sending her over the top. And a suicide dive fly by the Raw Women's Champion. And Grace is ready. Ruby Red moves out the way. Kick by Ruby Red. Face first goes Grace. And a Ruby Red kick. And Ruby Red already with a Ruby Red kick. And now tossing Grace in the ring. And Ruby Red. And another Ruby Red kick. And Grace. And another Ruby Red kick out. 1, 2, and Grace kicking out. 3 Ruby Red kicks will not work on Jordan Grace's behalf. And Grace, and Grace, launching herself off the ropes. And Grace, What a kick to Ruby Red. Grace got a live moonsault by Grace. Ruby Red, with a splash. And Grace, Insaguri. Ruby Red, a spine buster. And these two really putting the limits into this match here. At Super Showdown, Ruby Red gonna grab the table out. And Grace gonna grab her table out. And Grace now gonna drag her table all the way over to the other side of the ring. And Grace now going back on the other side. Ruby Red, and a super kick to Jordan Grace. And now Ruby Red now about to set up a table here. And Ruby Red gonna set up a table. And Grace now, Ruby Red with the table set it up. And another super kick by Ruby Red. And now Red now gonna set Jordan up on top of the table here. And now Ruby Red now gonna get back inside of the ring. And Red up on the top. And splashing Jordan Grace through a table. And now Ruby Red now. And Ruby Red now gonna lift up Grace. And Grace able. And Grace still with fight in her. And now Grace gonna go set up her table on her side. And Grace moving the table and flipping stuff out of the way.
Come on. You did. Come on.
And Grace. And
you did not have her all day. I had her too. You be quiet. And what you mean about having her all day?
And Grace now. And Grace now gonna set up Ruby Red on top of the table. And Grace off the top way. Grace climbing the top. Grace gonna do it from off the top. Oh wait, no, wait a minute. Grace now getting up off the top. Grace know where she wants to do it from now. Grace gonna climb. And Grace moonsaulting Ruby Red through the table. And Grace and Ruby Red having a all-out war for the Raw Women's Championship. It's tables everywhere. Here in the State Farm Union Pacific Arena, Watsontown, Virginia. And Ruby Red, and a drop kick to the mouth by the Raw Women's Champion Jordan Grace. Ruby Red Carter. Blockbuster over the top rope. Ruby Red. Superplex. And Red now going up top. And a splash to Grace. Cover. 1, 2. And Grace kick it out. It's tables everywhere.
They both get ready to go. Hun, Diamond finna go somewhere right quick. All right, baby.
And Grace and Ruby Red continuing the fight here. Grace and Ruby Red continuing up their match. Ruby Red and Grace And Grace and the bridge. 1, 2, and Ruby Red kicking out of the bridge. Let's take a look. It was the bridge. 1, 2, but Ruby Red had to kick out. And Grace, and Grace now, and clotheslining Ruby Red inside out. And Grace now, Grace gonna put Ruby Red. Ruby Red gets off the shoulder. And Red, and Ruby Red could be thinking about putting her into it. Ruby Red, blockbuster from off the top, and Ruby Red, with a clothesline. And here comes the former Raw Women's Champ, Ruby Red. And it's Ruby Red with a drop kick. And Ruby Red count 1. Shoulder went up for Grace. Knee goes up for Grace. And Grace now. And Grace with the highest moonsault ever. And Grace now gonna do it again. Grace. A second highest moonsault by Jordan Grace. And Grace gonna stand up Ruby Red. And punching Ruby Red. This is Jordan Grace era. And the third highest moonsault. 1, 2, 3, and Jordan Grace has beaten Ruby Red again. Jordan Grace. I'm Jordan Grace. Jordan Grace. Here is your winner and still the Raw Women's Champion, Jordan Grace. So Jordan Grace and Ruby Red went through a lot tonight. Put one another through a table, and these two are still able to stand and talk. There will be no more opportunities for Ruby Red unless she wins the Royal Rumble now to challenge Jordan Grace if Jordan Grace will still be champion. Jordan Grace. I'm Jordan Grace. Jordan Grace. I'm Jordan Grace. And now what is Ruby Red gonna do? She's gonna have to try and fight until she gets into the Royal Rumble match.